Mammaw started to teach me how to make some of her favorite dishes. But I was still having trouble understanding her. She'd tell me things like, be certain that onion is within spitting distance of the parsley. Or she'd say, give me a toe of garlic. Well, it was confusing, but it was also intriguing. And then one day my Mammaw, she got right to the heart of things. She told me there are 3 ingredients every cook must always keep in their kitchen. Salt pork, cornmeal, and molasses. I had no idea what she was talking about. I'd never even heard any of those words before. Growing up in Sicily, I was familiar with pizza, pasta, and gelato. But now I know molasses, it is the one ingredient you cannot find a substitute for. Well, after about 2 weeks, I could actually make my Mammaw's resurrection cake. Guaranteed to resurrect the moment you pour on the bourbon sauce. By then, I had learned all sorts of cooking tips and tricks, like the fried catfish tip. My Mammaw told me, if you serve fried catfish with anything other than hush puppies and coleslaw, that catfish would get up and walk off the floor. Real familiar with my Mammaw's kitchen. And by the 3rd week, she even let me wear her favorite apron, the red frilly one, the one with the big letters across the front that read, I'm the cook in this house and I know where the rat poison is. But the day I mastered making my Mammaw's 3-color icebox pie, that was a true turning point. It was green for lime, red for raspberry, and a kind of murky yellow, just a drizzle of blue for kumquat. Well, the day I mastered making a pie, that was the day my Mammaw took me to her sewing circle and introduced me to her friends. And what she did that day shocked me. Oh, she introduced me to her friends, but instead of telling me their names, she told me about their cooking. She said, this lady, she lives 2 blocks down, and this here is she crab soup. And then Mammaw started to whisper, she doesn't always use she crab. Sometimes it's hard-boiled eggs. The next lady she introduced me to was surprise salad. And right after the introduction, Mammaw promptly informed every person in that room, there ain't nothing surprising about that salad, them things are rutabagas.